Cool. Well, let's get started. I'll go through a few little housekeeping things. So if you guys stay on mute for the presentation, that'd be fantastic, and then I'll open up for questions at the end. So I'll make sure I do acknowledgement of country. So I want to acknowledge the land that I'm presenting on here today, the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. So I'm going to be asking you guys to, I'll admit a few more people, to use the chat quite a bit throughout this presentation. So some of you have already figured that out already, which is fantastic. So as an example, if you know the land, the Indigenous land that you're zooming in from, you might want to throw that in the chat. If you're not sure how to use the chat, there's a little button down the bottom with a little bubble that says chat, and that's where you can throw your answers in there. I might also use the, thanks for that, Ryan, the hand up feature for a few questions. So again, down the bottom left, there's an example to raise your hand for a few questions. Now, of course, what we're going to be looking at today is mainly personal actions. So things that we can do in our everyday lives to make a difference. But obviously there is a great need for demand for us to pressure and encourage governments to do the right thing and to make some big changes. So I always like to talk about the sandwich approach, personal action at the bottom and top-down action as well. So we need both to make sure that we can be living in a sustainable planet. You might want to take some notes. There's a lot of content we're going through in 45 minutes. So I apologize in advance, it's quite condensed, but there's a lot of key things. I basically pulled all our key research and all my personal sustainability experience to make this as compact as possible, so you'll get absolutely the most out of it. So let's get started. Click across here. So here's an overview of today. I'll give an overview of ClimateClever, where I work. We'll go through the science. I promise that it'll only be short, won't be a full-on lesson for you. Then we'll look at the key areas you can reduce your impact, both schools and homes. A lot of this applies in both areas. And then I'll run through the app really quickly, and then hopefully we can have a nice discussion in the end, and there's a bunch of questions. So yeah, any questions you have along the way, if I don't get to an answer by the end of the presentation, please save the questions for the actual Q&A time. So a little bit about me. I'm not sure if you guys can see, might just take my headphones off for a second. I've got quite a strange haircut at the moment. So I was doing the half cut campaign to raise money for deforestation. So we've almost finished the campaign. The campaign ends this week, and they've almost raised $1 million. So that's been absolutely fantastic. So a lot of people are like, oh, it's ClimateClever startups, and that you just have weird haircuts, which is kind of true. But I don't have my hair like this all the time. I used to work at the Scots College as their sustainability coordinator. So I'm quite familiar with schools and how they run. And obviously at ClimateClever, we run a school program. Before that, I have a very passionate sustainability background myself. I live a zero waste life and try and keep the carbon footprint to a minimum, chemicals and all that stuff as well. So any questions that you have along those lines, we can go over that. I only take the bin out, my little claim to fame, once a year at my house. So if you can beat that, that's pretty good. So we can go into some of that stuff later as well.
As Australians.
So I'll just admit here. So what is ClimateClever? I'm sure some of you either have used ClimateClever or have heard of it coming to this presentation. So Tess, my colleague, who unfortunately can't be here today, I'm just going to let her explain it through one of our videos. If you can't hear the audio, please do let me know in the chat and I can explain it.
We have one of the highest per person carbon.
Just go from the start.
As Australians, we have one of the highest per person carbon footprints in the world. To meet our climate targets, we need to dramatically reduce our carbon footprint. We can't ignore this elephant in the room any longer. So what can you do? Where do you even start? ClimateClever is a beautifully simple app and an engaging platform that helps you to measure and reduce your carbon footprint. We can help you to understand the key sources contributing to your carbon footprint. You can choose from and even add to a growing library of evidence-based actions implemented by our ClimateClever community. And our data-driven analytics allows you to accurately track your ongoing impact. The great news is you'll save money too. One of our ClimateClever schools reduced their energy, water and waste consumption by 30% in just 4 months, saving them more than $5,000. Imagine what you could save your school, business or household. We all have a responsibility to act. Together we can make a big difference.
Thanks for that, Tess. So essentially, ClimateClever, is an app-based platform, and we have programs for every type of institution, I guess. You can use the app at home, you can use it in school, and you can use it for businesses as well. So our overall goal is obviously to help people reduce their carbon footprint as much as possible. And we're really thankful for the impact we've been able to make so far. Randwick Council being a partner of ours, and so thankful for them for having us here today. People behind ClimateClever. So Dr. Vanessa Rowland is our founder and CEO. She's done her PhD in low carbon living and has a particular focus on schools. That's how we got started. We started with the school program. And Alexander Kuran is our co-founder and CTO. So everything we do is in-house. So Alex and his development team have built the app from scratch. We've done a fantastic job. And anytime schools or homes or businesses have suggestions or questions, we can answer them. We can put in updates for you. It's all very exciting. Our mission, as I said before, is accessibility plus sustainability. So we're trying to make our platform and our resources as accessible as possible to everyone, really, so they can really be as sustainable as possible. So the science, I promise this is only going to be a quick refresher just to get everyone in the mood. So who wants to have a go at just explaining, why, as briefly as you can, why climate change is a problem? You can use the hand up feature at the bottom left, or you can simply unmute yourself and yell out if you like. I'm sure someone can explain it better than I can. Any takers? No, that's all right. I was going to pick someone out, but I won't do that. So, I mean, obviously the big, hand up, fantastic. Yes, G, unmute yourself and please give an explanation. That'd be great. Can I unmute you? Oh, I can ask you to unmute. So G, you're on mute. If you can unmute yourself, we can hear your answer.
I don't think my internet is stable to speak up.
Sorry?
I don't think my internet is stable enough to be up because I hear your voice a little broken. So.
Oh, okay. I can kind of hear you. Do you want to have a go and see if it comes through? Otherwise, I can just explain it. That's fine. All right. We might. Geez, internet I think is playing up. So let's obviously the big issue with climate change is it's getting really hot, and that's because of the greenhouse effect. I'm sure most of you know this point. The whole Earth is warming by a few degrees all the time, which is not ideal. The hottest years on record have all been the most recent ones, which is of course not what we want. And there's a whole host of reasons for this, mainly being the greenhouse effect, which I'm sure you've all heard before. Much like a greenhouse, the Earth is trapping too much heat in the atmosphere, and this is causing many, many, many different things to happen. And there's a variety of reasons for why we're creating more pollution and waste and different things as well. So what is a carbon footprint? Essentially, I guess the most basic analogy is description rather, is everything your household or building emits in a year. So that's your carbon footprint. And there's the big reason why this is so important is we need to be able to calculate, okay, how much carbon have we used, and how do we reduce that impact? So some of you might have seen last year on Sky News, Alan Jones comparing Australia to a grain of rice. And while he was correct in saying that, our area in Oceania is only 1.3% of global emissions, which is quite true, it is quite astounding to look at this chart here and you see the impacts of countries like China and the USA. And it is easy to be like, oh, okay, well, other countries, they emit so much more than us. We're such a small percentage. Why should we bother doing anything? I think that the big aspect that often gets forgotten about is the carbon footprint per person or per capita. So Australia actually ranks number 8 in the world, according to the World Bank, in terms of carbon footprint size. We're actually bigger than the US, which is quite scary. So countries, as you can see here, like China, the United Kingdom, they've got a smaller carbon footprint per person, which essentially means we're all living like kings and queens in terms of our emissions. If everyone lived like us, it would be a big problem. Go back here. As you can see, there's a few other countries here which are a bit smaller as well with their carbon footprint, but as a developed nation, we have a huge impact there. So for those of you who actually got a chance to complete the ecological footprint, can you please just throw your answers in the chat to see what you got? I'm really interested to know. I used to do this calculator with my year 12s that I used to teach. And I think the average was usually around 4 or 5 Earths. So if you do know your answer from that calculator, please throw it in the chat. It'd be great to see some of those answers there. So I always like to say I do walk the talk. So we've got 2.1, 4.4, 4.8, 3.7. Yeah, these are all under 4 is quite good relative to the average. So we've got a lot of 3s. 104, is that meant to be 10.4? Jolanda? 1.4, 1.4, also 1.4. Wow, you got the same as me, very impressive. So yeah, I got 1.4. The thing that I feel like for a lot of people, Marta 1.5, nice. I think the thing that really hurts the carbon from a lot of people, again, being a bit different with COVID, is flights. Flights really are a massive impact. And it's hard if you've got family and friends overseas, which I do. My mum lives in the UK. That can really add up quite quickly. 4.8. Well, mate, thanks for that. Yeah, so it's pretty astounding to see once we've completed that kind of calculator. Obviously, a lot of that is assumption based. But as I said before, Australia has the biggest impact. If everyone lived like us, we'd need 5.2 Earths on average, which is insane. And the fact that if you take the world average, it's 1.7, we really need to, distribute our resources properly and do something about our carbon footprint. So thanks so much for everyone who completed that. I hope you got something out of it. So hopefully you're not too bored by the science stuff. Let's dive into some fun things now. So we want to make sure that you leave here with something. So if you all want to check your email inbox, you'll find that there's nothing there. We're going to give you the gift of knowledge today. So as I said, we pulled a lot of data from different places for this. So these are the key areas that I'll be going over today to reduce the impact. Again, a lot of these will apply to schools and homes and businesses as well. And I'm going to be going through a lot of solutions. Even if you complete just one from each category, that's massive. I think a big part of reducing our impact and a big part of why everyone's here today is because it is overwhelming. There's a lot to go through to learn how to reduce your impact. So I've kind of broken it down to these key areas. So hopefully, you can complete a few yourself if you're not already. So some of you might be familiar with the Environmental Research Letters science body. And so they did this amazing study a couple of years ago And they produced this chart, which has been shared quite a bit over the internet. And we can see it's broken into low, moderate, and high impact areas. So a lot of what we're going through today is coming from this body of research from drawdown.org. Highly recommend checking them out as well. And of course, ClimateClever as well. So as I said at the start, we've got a massive body of research that we take from as well. Yeah, so let's jump into the sections. I'll just move all these over so I can see you guys. So food choices and waste is the first one. I'd actually say this is one of the easiest ways to reduce your impact. As we can see by the chart here, can you guys see that? I'll go back. Agriculture and other land use is a massive part of what makes up our emissions globally. And the reason for this is animal products require a lot of resources compared to plant resources. They also clear a lot of green spaces, so a lot of trees and things getting cut down to make way for grazing. And the other thing is landfills release a lot of greenhouse gases. So when we throw food away, it often rots in landfill and produces greenhouse gases, especially methane. So, some of the solutions to these are the easiest one is just to eat more plants. If you can, you don't have to, give up animal products altogether, but eating more vegetables, more vegetarian meals, vegan meals is really going to make a massive difference. The other thing you can do is compost your scraps, or you could use FOGO. Like if you're in Randwick Council, an absolutely fantastic resource to be able to have your food collected. Or you could use a food cycler. So this can be really useful for those in apartments who might not have access to FOGO or a garden space. You can also try going zero waste like myself. Compost Revolution, they are a partner with Randwick Council, and you can get discounts for compost bins and things like that. So, if that's of use to you, then fantastic. You can get a tumbler and things through there discounted if that's what you want to do. Some other key things to reduce the impact is a shopping list. I know it sounds really basic, but having a shopping list on the fridge or in your phone, I use an app called Listonic, basically means that you're always going to know what you need to buy and you're not going to overbuy when you go to the shops and not come back home and go, oh, I've already got 10 of these things in the fridge. A use first tray. This is something that I actually got the idea from a documentary. Having a tray in the fridge that says use first on it. So all the food that might be going off soon, that can go in that tray. And the other one is obviously shop local. So when you can use groups like Box Divvy, that's where I get my food from, which is basically a farm to house service. You're reducing the distance that food's traveling. You're also supporting local farmers. So another question I always like to put to everyone for a quick example is, so what was the last meal or last food that everyone ate? If you want to throw that in the chat, I'm going to pull up a really interesting resource to have a look at that. So whatever you had, if it was spaghetti bolognese or lasagna, curry, anything you had, throw it in the pancakes, falafel, nice. Okay, let's get this resource up. So hopefully you can all still see that there. This is a really useful calculator on the BBC. Go away. So sausage roll, whoa, chickpea dal, ham and egg wrap. Okay, heaps of things. Thanks for that, guys. So let's select something that someone mentioned. So someone mentioned eggs. Let's look at eggs. I'll make sure I'm actually just going to turn off this dark mode so you guys can see this properly. There we go. Eggs. How often do you have them? Whoever had eggs, let's just say it's 1 or 2 times a week. Find out. So 2 servings of eggs over your entire consumption, with your the greenhouse gas emissions, that's equivalent to driving a petrol car 179 kilometers. This is, of course, again, over a year. The same as heating the average UK home for 6 days. Consumption of eggs also uses 5,381 litres of water, equal to 82 showers lasting 8 minutes. So we can see here how all the different proteins add up in terms of kilograms of greenhouse gases per serving, and beef and lamb obviously being quite high, and then your vegetarian and vegan options are quite a bit lower. So you don't have to completely reduce that impact to zero, but just, deciding to even cut your portions in half, meat-wise, can have a massive impact. Could you please post the link in the calculator? Yeah, absolutely, Mano, I definitely can. What's the website for testing food? So this is the BBC calculator. If you just put in BBC food calculator, it'll definitely come up for you. I can share that afterwards though, no problems. Might just skip ahead on this video so we can get through everything. So the next one is power. So this is a super easy one. The fact that you guys are here, I imagine most of you have done something like this. But at home, the electricity bill is generally the biggest in terms of carbon footprint. Unless you have solar or you purchase green power, that electricity is more than likely coming from a dirty power source, such as coal. So it's not actually as clean as sometimes we think. So a really simple solution to this is just to purchase green power. Pretty much every power provider has it now. You can easily make the switch by giving them a call or usually just on the website. I'm at my place, I've purchased 100% green power. Just that way I know everything is coming from a renewable source. If you can install solar, that's a massive thing to do, but I know obviously that can be a big financial step. Supporting clean energy providers, we'll go through that in a minute, and obviously reducing your usage through the ClimateClever app. So again, if people could throw their answers in the chat, and keep in mind, if you do after this want to consider switching energy providers or purchasing green power, make sure you check that that's going to be a good switch for you financially. But if people could throw their energy provider in the chat, that's going to be really interesting. Someone said we have solar panels, absolutely amazing. Yeah, so if whoever you're with for your energy provider, that'd be amazing. And over energy locals, AGL Origin, fantastic. Thanks so much for that, guys. Keep them coming. So the green electricity guide, super useful for working out, which energy provider is, I guess, doing the right thing. So this is independent body with Greenpeace and the Total Environment Centre. So we go down here, we can see the rankings. We can go to New South Wales, and these are the rankings for all the different energy providers. So I've personally been with both Power Shop and Energy Locals. They're really great. And I know Nova's doing some amazing things with community energy, but it's just a really useful resource to be able to say, okay, Nova, for example, what are they doing? Pretty great stuff. Is not involved in demand management response programs. That's still fine. That's still an amazing job that they're doing here. There's always the full reports you want to have a look at. Someone else said Origin in there. A lot of schools I know with Origin. So I think the reason Origin loses a few points is because they support mining and coal seam gas, which obviously isn't good for the environment. But they've come a long way. They used to be literally like 1 star. So it's great to see that a lot of these companies are really hearing what people want. That's fantastic. So that's another resource that you can definitely use. But I mean, at the end of the day, the key thing is using green power, is how we're all going to make a big transition. So if you can switch, it makes a massive difference. Transport. So, I've lost where are you guys? There we go, there's the chat. Fantastic. So transport is another big one. I was actually really amazed by this graphic on the right-hand side here. Look how big road vehicles are. So of the total global carbon footprint, transport's roughly, depending on which data site you look at, 15 to 25% of emissions. 10 to 15. But look at road vehicles. It's actually much bigger than both international and domestic aviation put together. And a big reason for that is because aviation, like most people have never been on a plane. For all of those us in Australia who've been on a plane, we're very, very lucky. Most of the world's never seen the inside of a plane. So this is the reason why road vehicles are such a big impact. And I know this is really hard because obviously a big solution to this is electric vehicles, and not everyone can afford one of those. They're still very, very expensive. Obviously, there's some key solutions here, though, which are quite obvious. This is Tess, my colleague. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here today, but that's her on an e-bike in the Blue Mountains. So riding a bike or an e-bike is an amazing way to reduce your impact. I have an e-bike myself. which is just a battery-powered pedal bike. And I'm amazed how much I've reduced my car usage through one of those. So you can pick them up secondhand from bike stores. They're a great option. Walk where possible, flying less. Obviously, this isn't always an option, but what you can, it makes a big difference. Use car sharing. Things like Car Next Door are amazing instead of owning a car. And an EV, if you can afford it, it's actually a great time in New South Wales to get an electric vehicle, thanks to the rebates. Randwick Council, I also know, has some great rebate programs as well. Question that I'll just throw into the chat while I get this little video up is, are the running costs for an EV more or less than a standard petrol car? Put what you think in the chat and I can let you know about that one. I'm just going to pull up this great video while you do that from Amsterdam, not Amsterdam, Holland. And this is like, this is one of their bike garages. Like, it's amazing. I've never seen anything like this in Australia. But you can see here, there's all the bikes. This whole area can hold 12,000 bikes, which is fantastic. Josh, I guess currently high, but time will cheaper. I would expect EV costs more to buy, but it's cheaper long term. Ryan, you're absolutely correct. Mirabella, Helen said less, absolutely. So an electric vehicle is actually cheaper to run. They're a lot more expensive to buy up front, but with the lack of servicing and the moving parts that you have with petrol, it's a lot cheaper to run. And a lot of the power at the moment is free in Australia, which is fantastic. I know that Randwick Council has a great charger in front of their car park as well, which is great. Let's go back into present mode here. So we're probably going to go over time a little bit at this stage. If you guys want to let me know in the chat if that's okay with you. If you have to get going, there's a recording as well. But let me know how that sounds to you if you want to make sure we get through all the content. Ryan, fine by me. Thanks for that, Ryan. So trees, another massive one. This is a bit of an interesting one because I think not everyone has space to put trees and things like that. But trees, as we know, literally turn carbon into oxygen. Every minute we lose 48 football fields worth of trees thanks to global deforestation, which is absolutely terrible. So there's a couple of solutions to this. The first one being you can volunteer at a tree planting event. I know that Randwick runs these as well, which is fantastic. So I can't wait to get to one of these once COVID's over. In fact, I can't wait to do a lot of things once COVID's over. So you can also grow more air efficient plants at home. So there's some great resources online for what some great plants you can have inside, even indoor trees. I definitely think too. I always do. Rail is really high. Should we be asking government to offset by growing trees? Great point, Catherine. Rail is really high. Traveling by especially old trains that run on diesel, absolutely massive impact. I hope that's what you mean by rail, Catherine. So yeah, we definitely should be, something that would be great to see with all flights and trains in Australia is to see government programs offsetting those emissions, or at least providing renewable ways to get around train infrastructures and things. So great point there. What I always like to do, I'm not sure if my friends and family, receive this in what way is for presents. I'll often just gift a tree. So groups like One Tree Planted, or if your council has a program, you can give a gift voucher for trees. Great present. I think it goes in their name. So, it goes on the record that the tree's in their name. I think it's a nice present, and there's lots of zero waste presents you can give as well. But I think it's a nice way to, up the tree count as well. For my birthday this year, my friends planted 500 trees for me. So that was an amazing gift. They all went in on a present. They knew I'd love that. And of course, you can offset your emissions with the app. So little sneak preview for you guys that very soon we'll have offsets in our app. So that'll be really exciting for everyone. I'm just going to play a quick little video. A lot of us, may have purchased offsets before, either carbon credits or trees directly. And I think we really take for granted that we can just click and, plant a tree. But this video shows, I'll just play a snippet of the day of the life of a tree planter. Where we want to start here.
I wake up at 4:20 habitually. I go to the kitchen, breakfast, you do your lunch, you take your water, you fill it, and after you go to your room and you prepare all your stuff.
After we're taking the truck, and it might take 30-45 minutes, so 6:30 is 7 o'clock. You're on your land and you're planting. When 3 o'clock happened, you're just so happy. Yes, I did it. I don't know how, but I did it.
I really like to finish my day and say, oh shit, it was really a good day, and this is really like satisfying.
The two reasons that I'm coming back planting is the endorphin that it's giving to you, and the other one for sure, it's a money.
So a nice little snippet there. Sorry guys, I'm just going to quickly make sure Julian can get the link. So I'm just going to send that over to him. Apologies, 2 seconds. Julian at Council. Where are we? Zoom. If you guys have any, actually, sorry, I'll just grab this, copy invite link. There we go. Awesome, nice one. Sorry about that. Let's jump back in. Cool. All right, let's keep going. Okay, so the last section is shopping and money. So this is a massive one, as I'm sure we all know. We really do live in a consumerist world these days. So many things getting sent online, Amazon, you name it. I get things sent to my house online as well. It's just so convenient. I know we're all very time poor, but there's some different things and definitely some big things in here to look at. So, and the other thing is also where we keep our money has a massive impact on the environment, which sounds really strange if you've never really thought about it, but a lot of banks do invest their money in fossil fuels as well as super funds. So again, totally up to you what you want to do with which bank you're with. And if I know I've got a few friends and family who've considered switching for a few years, but can be quite a big thing. Make sure that's the right financial decision for you. But anything we consume has a carbon footprint, basically. So anything we shop for, has a big impact on the environment. I think that the hierarchy of needs is absolutely amazing. Starting at the bottom, use what you have. If you do need something, so for example, our printer broke a couple of months ago, and we just have been using our neighbor's printer, have been kind enough to let us use it. Swapping and then shopping for secondhand. Like I literally get everything secondhand. I actually can't think of the last thing I bought new. I had to get a new phone recently, and I got that. Oh, I can't really see that. I got that on Marketplace. Someone had an old phone that they didn't need. So in terms of solutions, I actually really got obsessed with this whole thing, watching minimalism on Netflix. Highly recommend it. If you've seen that, please put it in the chat. You know how good it is. Use the pyramid, the hierarchy of needs, of course. Changing your bank or super is a massive thing for the environment, and it's really, really quick. You can use the Good On You app, which is this logo here. If you haven't heard of it, just jot that down and check it out later to see exactly what I mean. It basically ranks a lot of fashion companies on how ethical they are. Now, another question for you guys. Please throw your answers in the chat. If you know if your bank or your old bank even invests in fossil fuels. So I'm going to bring up another cool resource here as well. So if you don't know, that's totally fine. I didn't know until I had a look at this resource. Feel free to throw it in the chat. But we can see here, so Market Forces is a fantastic NGO that's been doing a lot of work in this space. So Nicole, don't know, thanks so much for that, Nicole, being honest, it's great. So I didn't know either, and my old bank, for example, they've got all the banks listed here in alphabetical order. So my old bank was ANZ, and they have loaned quite a few $1 million to the fossil fuel industry, which is not great. I actually emailed them and said, you know, I'm really unhappy with this. What are you guys doing about it? And they were just kind of like, yeah, we're not doing anything about it. So because of that, I actually moved my bank over to Bank Australia, which I'm sure so many of you have seen the billboards and things for. And they're absolutely great. They don't impact, do any investment in that area. So again, that's just a personal decision for me, but it's definitely something worth looking into. And they've also got information here on super funds as well. ClimateClever doesn't have any affiliations with any banks or supers, but I think it's a really important point to bring up as it does make such a big impact on the planet. So that's Market Forces. If you mine are, I'll email them to change. Helen, great, that's what we want to hear. So Market Forces is a great resource to check out as well. Okay, so these are some great things to write down in terms of additional resources. Randwick Council, like I have to say, I don't live in Randwick Council and I'm very jealous of all the resources and things that they have. So, if you do live in the council area, just please lap those things up. On the Randwick Council website, there's some great rebates there to check out. If you're outside the council area like me, the City of Sydney has a program called Positive Waste. That is a program for collecting food waste. So my council doesn't have FOGO like Randwick does, so that's an option there. Compost Revolution that I mentioned before, they have some great resources. Again, Randwick Council's with Compost Revolution, which is fantastic. They're also with Solar My Schools. Great program for getting a solar assessment at your school. So when I was teaching at Scott's, we used this to get an assessment done. The New South Wales government lighting rebates. This is amazing. So in my house, I got all the lights changed, all the down lights for $33 to LEDs. And, they're not crappy like, hospital lights where it's like really cool and it's not, a nice vibe. They're just warm lights and they're great and save so much money with that. The $33 you'd easily make back so quickly. Bin trim is probably more of a business or school resource provided by the EPA, New South Wales. Great option if you're looking to reduce waste. Water Fix, which I also know is on the Randwick Council website, is similar to the lighting program where people can come in and assess your home for leaks and things. So really useful resource. Again, if this is all too much, it's all on Randwick's website. It's fantastic. Best thing is you can log all of this in our ClimateClever app. Some quick case studies that I'll go through. So Oatlands Public School in New South Wales has been using our app for a couple of years now, and they saved over $5,000 in the first 4 months. Absolutely fantastic result. And that was with no expenditure. That was all behavior change actions. So that's a big thing at ClimateClever we're focusing on is, just changing behaviors. You don't have to spend a lot of money straight away to make some big savings. And they reduced their carbon footprint by over 60% in the first 2 years. Another school, Belia Primary over in WA. So ClimateClever is actually based in WA, but I work in the Sydney team. Lucky me, I'm locked down and they're free over there. So over $4,000 saved in the first 12 months. And they had a big focus on landfill and electricity usage. So they really got both of those down, which is absolutely fantastic. And Louise, the principal there, has really pushed the program forward. I had this video as a backup, but we're already over time as it is, so I'll just skip over this. Before we jump into the demo, really quickly, I just want to show you this video. This, for those who haven't seen Inconvenient Truth or haven't watched it in a long time, this is the clip that really got me into this career. I watched the film when it came out when I was only, 11 years old. And this clip just stuck with me I'm 27 now, for many years. So, I just want to share that with you guys really quickly.
You remember that?
So this is from the end of the film.
You remember that home movie of the Earth spinning in space? One of those spacecraft continuing on out into the universe, when it got 4 billion miles out in space, Carl Sagan said, let's take another picture of the Earth. You see that pale blue dot? That's us. Everything that has ever happened in all of human history has happened on that pixel. All the triumphs and all the tragedies, all the wars, all the famines, all the major advances. It's our only home. And that is what is at stake. Our ability to live on planet Earth, to have a future as a civilization. I believe this is a moral issue. It is your time to seize this issue. It is our time to rise again to secure our future.
Fantastic clip there from Al Gore's Inconvenient Truth. That's the clip that's just powered me forward to continue to reduce my personal impact and to have a career in sustainability. So I'm hoping that it can inspire you as well. I know over time a little bit. I'll quickly go into the demo. Again, if you guys do need to go, apologies, we went over time, but I will jump into the demo now. Let's go here. Fantastic. So hopefully you can all see that there. So this is the ClimateClever app. I'll very quickly just whiz through this. So some of you might have seen this before, maybe not. This is the dashboard, and it's broken into these main categories across the top. So we have this little dashboard down here. So this is one of our schools in WA. You can see here from the data that they're currently doing a bit better than last year, which is fantastic. We can click across to see their costs, and their costs are down as well. What I'll do is I'll just show you some of these sections really quickly, and then we can get to some questions. So the measure section, this is where a school can enter all their bills. So we can see this school has entered all their bill data here, and we've got all the different sections for the different bills, which is great. And really easy to enter these bills for homes and schools. You just throw in the data here, and then your card populates in the app. Got to run, thanks heaps. Been very interesting, thanks so much. The audit section, this is where you can log all your buildings and rooms within the school. So for example, we can see here Linwood has logged a few offices. If we look at the principal's office, have logged a few items in here, such as aircon and a fan. And we have a massive library of options you can add into the app here, such as cooling, lighting, etc. So really easy for kids to do, whether you're at home or at school. The action module, this is where you can track all your actions within the app, and you can just drag them from each column here and keep an eye on who's doing which actions. Can you please post a link? Absolutely. You can just track all the actions in here from section to section. You can filter by users or students, and you can also filter by categories. But what I really want to show you guys is the track section. Julian, thanks so much for that. Oh, that's www.climateclever.org. So in the track section, if you go to measure, we can see here that Linwood's actually entered a bunch of data over the years, and we can see the fruits of their actions. So their carbon footprint for electricity, we can see here has been going down over the years. And if we click across the costs, we can see they've also, especially in that first year, recouped quite a bit of money, which is fantastic to see. You can also look at this on a monthly view as well. Hit back here. This is actually the same across most of their utilities. So their gas carbon footprint's been going down thanks to the actions they've been doing, as well as their costs, which is excellent. And they've actually had a lot of issues with water leaks. So when they first joined us, they were able to identify some water leaks in the app. So we can see their carbon footprint going down there, as well as their costs as well, massively in those first few years. So that's the app in like the quickest nutshell possible. The home app looks exactly the same. It's obviously tailored towards the home. But I know we're over time by about 6 minutes now. So if there's any questions that anyone has, please feel free to use the hand option or just yell it out. Love to answer some of the questions you have about anything, whether it's ClimateClever, my zero waste journey, the schools program. Happy to answer anything. And you can also use the chat as well if you want to put a few options in there. Anyone's got any questions about the program? We'll put some. If you do want to find out some more about the program, you can definitely check out on the website. Julian, what happened when the graphs went up again after going down for a bit? Great question. So sometimes the data that you enter into the app, you'll see a few things changing based on utility prices and usage as well. So sometimes a school can drop their usage in the first year, which is great. But for example, let's say there was a leak or something got left on, that can definitely see the usage jump up again. So it's a great way to track your usage year on year, especially if you have a particularly cold winter or really hot summer. That's going to affect how much aircon and heating is used as well. Mirabelle has a question. Yes. Got your hand up there. Just take yourself off mute. Yep.
Was it really hard to only take out your bin once a year at first?
Great question. Yeah, it was. It really was. So I watched the minimalism documentary, and then I also read Zero Waste Home, which is a fantastic book. And that really inspired me to see how close I could get to zero waste. I will say that I would say, especially in Australia, it is impossible to be zero waste at this stage, because there's a few things that just cannot be recycled, or you'll just accidentally purchase something that can't be recycled or composted. But it took a bit of reading, but it wasn't as hard as I thought. Once you start composting and recycling soft plastics at Coles or Woolies, it's really easy from there. Like, that's such a big portion of landfill waste. There's just a few things that you learn after that can't go in recycling. Such a classic one is the plastic on envelopes. There's nothing to do with those because they're always attached to the paper. The little satchels you get in clothes or food to contain the moisture, those have nowhere to go. Magnets are another annoying one. So it's actually not as hard as I thought, but great question. Lisa, ditto recycling plastics at the supermarket. Yeah, that's a super easy one. Just have some kind of little tub next to your bin to take those plastics out. Julian's linking in The Minimalist. Absolutely fantastic. Great film. So it does work. What do you mean by that, Lisa? Do you mean in terms of like recycling or zero waste? Happy to answer. Do they get recycled? Oh, I imagine you mean soft plastics. So for anyone who saw Warm Waste, some of those plastics were definitely getting sent to landfill at that stage. So I did send an email to Red Cycle, who's the company that looks after the soft plastics. Thanks, Josh. They did say that they're doing as much as they can to make sure those plastics are recycled properly. So a lot of shops and supermarkets, you'll see the recycled plastic benches, the green benches at Coles and Woolies. But it's always a great thing to be, if you're unsure about what goes in those bins, or you want to make sure it's being recycled properly, definitely send Red Cycle an email. They're really good on there. But as far as I know, from when I was last in contact with them, they're recycling a lot more. Ryan, sorry, I have to go. Thanks so much for the talk. Thanks, Ryan. Nicole, we logged in late. The footprint survey wasn't on the site. Oh, yes. So, yeah, the footprint calculator is separate to us at ClimateClever. ClimateClever is a much more detailed carbon footprinting service. Okay, thanks. Can you comment on the offsetting on airline tickets? Oh, I definitely can. So I was actually really surprised myself, for anyone who watched Fight for Planet A on the ABC, that small, so let's say you're purchasing a flight on Jetstar and it has a little option where it's like $2 to offset your flight. I was quite surprised that that is apparently quite accurate. I know obviously it's only for your seat. In my experience, there are other offsetting options, other websites and things. It's usually quite a bit more for an offset, and I imagine that's because the airlines they purchase them in bulk and they get a discount. They only put on a small fee for those flying them. I personally think it's a great option to always tick the offset box, but I also offset all my emissions, additional emissions, I guess, that I just can't mitigate outside of that. So I'll purchase carbon credits or plant trees through different programs to make sure I'm always, carbon neutral or even carbon negative. But that's about as much as I can say on the airline tickets. Again, you can always send an email and say, hey, what are you doing? What's your policy on this? Any suggestions on best strategies to influence from the top down? Oh, Yanni, great question. Oh, it's a tricky one because I think it really is such a broad spectrum of issues and things to address, is that you almost have to pick one or pick an area that you want to focus on. So I think, joining a volunteering program is how I really learned a lot about top-down influence. So whether that's a political group that you want to join, or just a local council group, or something like 350.org, they've got a lot of meetup groups. That's how I learned a lot about the top-down influence. But I think it's something that, us as citizens and community members, we just constantly need to be asking for change. So anything you ever see that you're like, oh, it'd be good if we saw a difference there, just send an email. You'd be amazed at the power of one email. So an example is, I won't name the company, but they they sent me a magazine the other day and it was wrapped in plastic. And sent them an email. I just said, is this really necessary? Like, you can send it a paper sleeve or something else. Michelle, thanks so much. And they said that they were going to change it, whether or not they were just telling me that, but they had said that other people had asked that. So never underestimate the power of one email. Mirabella, when your rubbish went down, did your recycling go up? Great question. Sorry, I know you had your hand up before again. Yes, it did. So my recycling actually, maybe it didn't. I mean, my recycling has always been quite high because I make sure I recycle everything. What definitely went up is my composting. So making sure all the food scraps went away, and also dirty cardboard. So things like pizza bases, making sure I tore those up and put them in my compost tumbler. So that definitely went up. But my recycling got split, if that makes sense. So I take all my bottles and cans to the 10-cent refund center. So in that sense, it kind of went down, but you're at least getting a bit of money back for that. Are there any people in Australia that calculate their carbon footprint at one planet? Not that I'm aware of, but I'm sure there is some people out there with amazing carbon footprints. But yeah, I mean, I got 1.4 on that app, and sometimes it'll be higher, some years it'll be lower. I think it's about doing as much as we can as individuals, because you'd be amazed that like people come to my house and they're like, what are all these bins? Or they'll ask about the solar panels and different things like that. And it's just amazing the influence you can have on people just by doing your own thing. So I've had a lot of people approach me to help them organize their waste at their house, or even just providing them with a reputable solar installer. So I'm not sure about one planet, but I'm sure there's some who've done it. Catherine, this provides carbon offsetting. Excellent, thanks for that. Great question, Helen. Are there any other questions or anything else anyone wanted to say? I know that we've gone over about 15 minutes now, but happy to answer any more questions if you want. Marta, if you can try to shop in bulk food stores and bring your own containers, to avoid any packaging. The more we shop in these stores, the cheaper we'll get. Great point. So, every plastic item that comes into my house, I'll recycle. But if you can get things from bulk stores and you avoid the plastic altogether, that's a great way to reduce your impact there. But as I said, the areas that we covered in the presentation, reducing how many animal products you eat, looking at offsets, reducing your food waste is massive. So a lot of studies have come out recently that we just don't have as much data as we would like for the emissions coming out of landfill. It's actually a really, really big thing. So composting is one of the biggest things you can do. So definitely recommend doing that. And, a lot of people have started riding bikes in COVID. So if you can get hold of a secondhand bike, it's a great way to reduce those transport emissions as well. I can see a couple of kids smiling on here. Monster Cormac, do you have any questions, or Cerise P, any questions? Surely you've got a question. Mirabelle, thanks. That was a great presentation, and congratulations for all the work you're doing. I learned a lot. Thanks so much, and I really appreciate all you guys coming along. If there's no more questions, we might wrap it up. But if you have any more, please yell them out or throw them in the chat. But thanks so much, guys. I'll just get the final slides up actually before we go. So make sure we got those. So again, thanks so much to Randwick Council for putting on this this amazing festival. It's a great thing to have during COVID. So thanks so much, guys. Remember to check out, as I've said several times, check out the Randwick website. They've got so many programs to get involved with. And as I mentioned, the sustainability rebates, they're all on there. Julian and his team's done a great job of logging that all on the website. And please let us know what you think of the EcoFest and the presentations as a whole. You can use the QR code there to give a little review. Again, the council's done an amazing job of putting on this event, so all the feedback we can get is really, really helpful. So if you guys don't mind taking some time to complete that, that would be absolutely amazing. Great session, Lou. Thank you guys. Lots of information. Monster Cormac, thanks. Awesome, guys. Thank you. Food for thought, we'll look at the app. Yeah, guys, my email address is just luke@climateclever.org. If you want to send me a question, any questions, I'll just put in the chat for you. If you have any questions, please let me know. Get in touch if you're interested in the home app or the school app. Randwick Council is a partner, so if you do decide to join, you'll get 50% off thanks to them. But if there's no more questions, have a great day, guys. I will stop the recording. And hopefully see you next time, or see you on the ClimateClever app. And thanks again to Randwick Council for putting this on.